What are you doing?
Just recording some sounds for a video.
Okay.
No, it's normal, I swear it. They'll see. They'll all see. Audio is a topic that I think we can all agree is not quite as exciting to discuss as how the new camera is performing or how the new Blazar anamorphic lens is looking, but it's something that is equally, if not more important than the visuals in your videos and film. If you've been on the filmmaking side of YouTube for any amount of time at this point, you've probably heard somebody at some point say something like, you can look past bad visuals but not past bad audio. And I've been pondering as to why that might be true, and here's the conclusion that I came to. Visual media is subjective by nature. A shot in a video or a film that looks cinematic and great to somebody may look unappealing and awful to someone else. There's also a huge horizon in which the visual media can play in. You have your cinematic vlogging, you have your mockumentaries, you have documentaries, you have short films, feature films, Hollywood blockbusters, and all of these come with their own kind of expectations of how those visuals should look and how we expect them to look given the context of what we're watching. There also may be a shot in a video or a film, for example, that looks bad as a standalone image, but when given the context of the rest of the video or the film, makes sense and actually supports the story that creator is trying to tell. But whereas visuals can kind of play in this contextual space, bad audio is just bad audio. There's nothing about this that is supporting the story that I'm trying to tell, which is me conveying this information to you through this video. So I'd like to give some examples of how sound can actually sell your production value, and why I do this with production value is because production value is typically associated with like set building, world building, visual stuff that you can see, but you can also get away with selling a lot of things that you may not have the budget for using strictly audio alone. Towards the end of this video, I will go into 3 different tiers of audio equipment that even the most budget sensitive creators can use, and I'll also be discussing 2 different audio library resources, one of which is free and the other is a subscription service that I use. So the first example I want to go through is from the show that we've all probably heard of at this point, called Lost. I know the ending is kind of controversial and people don't know how they feel about it, but one thing that show did very well was selling some of their effects and some of their story through sound alone.
What was that?
That was weird, right?
Is that Vincent?
It's not Vincent.
Did anybody see that?
No, Claire, nobody saw that, and that was the whole point. I'm actually rewatching this show right now with my wife, and I'm realizing how often they utilize this tactic. When the monster is first shown, it's sound alone. You can tell that the first season was definitely a lower budget season in the sense that a lot of it's very like dialogue heavy and takes place in a nice location. They shot in, I think, Hawaii. But all the CG effects either take place in really quick cuts where you can't really quite make out what's going on, or at night, which can help them kind of cover up the lack of complexity in their visual effects. But going back to the sound portion, you can tell that they utilize sound because they don't really need to see the creature or see what's going on. The sound adds a level of mystery that you otherwise wouldn't be able to achieve if you just showed the monster up front. The next example is actually a video of my own where I built kind of like the back of a spaceship in my garage for a Helldiver short film. So I don't know if any of you are Helldivers fans, but if you are, go over and check it out. It was a really fun project. Took me like a few months to build this thing in my garage. Yeah, it was time intensive, but I learned a lot and it was fun. And it's my most successful video yet on this channel actually, so I guess it all worked out. So that short film starts out with a CG sequence that I created in Blender where a ship flies into a planet, and then I wanted to have a cut to where the Helldiver is waiting in like this kind of like cargo bay area in the back of his ship. It's kind of assumed that the ship is on autopilot while it's like going into its landing sequence. And so what I did is I took my camera, set it up on the tripod at this angle that you see, and then had my actor kind of like sway back and forth, and I gave him direction during recording. I was like, you're landing, you're landing, you're landing, and landed. And when I said landed, he kind of made like a jolt, and so all of that was setting up to be able to be sold through sound later on in post. So the sound that I was trying to sell went hand in hand with that light that you see kind of cutting down across his face. All of that is supposed to look and sound like a kind of like spaceship, like bay door opening up, where you see like this kind of like Star Wars-y hydraulic ramp lowering down. Obviously, it did not have the budget to create a real hydraulic or a pneumatic ramp or anything, so all of this was going to be a stationary shot and be sold through that light effect and then the sounds. All of those sounds, I forget exactly what I used, but it was basically a collection of some like machine whirring sounds. It's really important to have like a room tone over your scenes so that whenever there's not something happening like footsteps or dialogue or actors interacting with something, it's not just dropping to dead silence. So I think that I just took like a room tone of a large factory space and then had that as a baseline under everything. And there was like some machine operation sounds, I think there was some hydraulic pump sounds, metal creaking sounds, and then I also sold that this actor was walking off of like a metal drawbridge kind of thing off the back of the ship with the footsteps, which I'll play here. So in reality, that actor is walking on a single wooden board that had a very small ramp to it. So obviously his boots here are not going to make the metal sound that you hear. That all had to be sold through sound. For the 3 different tiers of the budget-friendly gear that I mentioned earlier, let's start with this guy right here. This is the least exciting version of the other 2 options that I mentioned, but everybody has one of these and they're relatively free. Like, yeah, I know some of us make payments for our phones, we have to pay for the service, but pretty much everyone has one of these days, and the built-in microphone, in my opinion, is honestly far superior than what you would find in your built-in microphone for your camera. At this point in my still very brief YouTube journey, I try and never use the built-in microphone in my camera, and I've just yet to see or hear a microphone that's built into a camera that sounds nearly as good as even like the microphone in your phone, for example. So the next option I have here is the Rode shotgun mic, which I think that I bought this for like $20 or $30 off Amazon. And yes, it does technically use your built-in microphone in your camera, but the quality that you get out of this microphone when it's plugged into your camera is way better than the standalone microphone by itself. This would be a really good option for people who are vlogging and want something that's better than their built-in camera microphone. Still, this is something that I wouldn't recommend for if you're shooting like a feature film and you're fully relying on it. But in a pinch, it would be a great way to capture all of the kind of ambient sounds that you have going on around you in a scene if you don't want to or can't recreate those sounds in post later on. The last and most expensive of the 3 options I'll discuss today is this H1N Zoom microphone that I keep holding up. Honestly, this microphone was my first real step into the world of audio, and I think that it's really improved the quality of my videos, both for my talking head stuff and also my short films that I upload. For example, all the sounds that you heard in the beginning skit to this video, all of that for the voiceover and the sounds and everything was all recorded using this microphone. For what you pay for it, this microphone really does provide a lot of value to my videos, and I know that it would for yours as well. I think I bought this on a Black Friday deal for like 50 or 60 bucks, but I think typically it goes closer to 90 or maybe 100 on Amazon. So I realized while editing this video that I didn't do any direct comparison of the 3 different tiers of audio levels I've been talking about, and so to start it off as a baseline, this is the audio with the built-in camera mic, and this is the audio with the Rode shotgun mic plugged in, and this is the audio coming from my phone, just using like the recording app, and this is the audio with my H1N Zoom recorder. So there are some sounds that you just can't record. For example, music, unless you're like an audio professional and have your own studio and also can make your own music, and I reckon most of us are not that person. So these days there are no shortage of subscription services out there that would love to have your money so you can pay for their audio assets like their music and their sound effects and stuff like that. But I would like to start it off with a free one, and it's the one that I used for most of my first few videos on this channel, actually all of my first few videos on this channel, and that is the YouTube library. And the great thing about this is that it's a built-in YouTube tool, and so any of the sound effects and music that you use for your videos from that library will be copyright free, 100% guarantee. Like I said, YouTube Library was what I used for the first several videos on this channel, and honestly the only reason that I switched is because there was a time where I felt like I was kind of reaching a ceiling for what the library had to offer. It is a relatively limited library of sound effects and music, all of which are great for what it is, but you will find a broader horizon of sound effects and music, and even things like LUT packages and stuff like that on other paid services like artlist.io, for example. I will say this video is not sponsored. I'm just kind of giving some recommendations here for budget-friendly options, and there is a base level with Artlist where you can pay, I think it's like $10 a month, and you have access to all of their sound effects and music. But if you want to do like the Max Pro option or whatever other options they have, that will open up access to stock footage for you, and also things like LUTs, which I think is a relatively new thing. And they also have a new AI voice tool that you can only use, I think, in the Max option. So in terms of audio equipment and also some free and paid services like YouTube Library and Artlist, there's a plethora of audio options out there that we can utilize as budget creators or filmmakers to up the level of our visuals, because as weird as it sounds, having high quality audio in your videos does something to up the level of quality that you're seeing on the screen. It all starts with the audio, and then the visuals are next. I hope you got some value out of this video, and also if you use something like Audio or MusicBed or some other subscription service to get your music and sound effects, let me know your experience with those, because like I said, I've only ever used YouTube Library and Artlist, and I'm kind of blind to how the other subscription services might work, or how quality they are or not. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, please. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.